This video is a discussion and ranking of all Albion weapons for the current state of Mists. Mists have completely changed since last week, and right now they're a free-for-all deathmatch with constant action, multi-way fights and chaotic ratting upon ratting upon ratting. Although winning 1v1 fights is still important, it's no longer the biggest determinant of how strong any weapon is. A couple quick things before we start. First of all, this analysis concerns primarily middling tiers, which affects the majority of us, including myself. Yeah, we don't talk about 8.3 strategies here when analyzing the tier list. Number two, the cost of weapons also matters to some extent, but I mention it whenever it's really relevant. Number three, I've of course divided the video into chapters, so if you're interested in a specific weapon tree or something more specifically, then you can probably navigate to it using that on YouTube. And finally, whenever there's something you really agree or disagree with, let me know. This is a channel and my stream is a place for debate, disagreement and having discussions, and I'm going to update and make new tier lists in the future. So if there's some personal experience you have with any of the weapons or something specific you think I'm missing right now, I would love to hear about it and I would appreciate your input here or if you come to stream. By the way, streaming almost daily at twitch.tv/VictorZane. Anyway, let's talk about weapons now. At the end of the day, a lot of my enjoyment of Albion comes from learning. Okay, do we start from the top or do we start from the bottom? Let's go from the bottom. And we're gonna have, keep in mind, a lot of these weapons, I don't know. And one thing that is kind of important, that one thing that goes into one man making a tier list is that I'm not basing it just on my experience, but also what I see others doing. The fact that no one has played Rotcollar for such a long time, it might be a testament to the fact that it's too expensive. There's like one person who's played Rotcollar seriously in Mist in the last month, I think, from my experience. I don't think it deserves it. And keep in mind also for the SA, B, and C tier, yeah, we need to, that's a good question, Ismail. Do you consider the cost? Yes. For this tier list, we are also going to consider the cost. Because part of playing the new Mists, the constant free-for-all, you need to accept that you're going to die a lot. You're getting more kills, you're getting more deaths. Because whenever you get into a fight, there's a higher chance that someone else will rat, and then there's going to be another person, and multi-weight situations mean more people die on average. Which means that weapons that were good before the patch, some of them will lose and have lost and dropped like a tier lower, just simply because it's not viable to keep buying them over and over again if you want to play Mists. And we are also primarily talking at middle tiers, yeah? Although we're also going to consider tier 6 is middle, tier 7 and tier 8. We're also going to consider some other things, but primarily we're talking about playing Mists in like middling tiers where you fight someone who is stronger, sometimes you fight someone who is weaker, yeah? We're not talking about 8.3 meta, you know? Just get that out of your mind instantly. People playing 8.3 are playing a little bit of a different game. There are different considerations. Of course, 1v1 fights are still 1v1 fights, but the consideration of survival is more important, fight selection is more important, and people who just 4.1 drive around on a horse trying to find a free kill, also we're not going to consider that, yeah? Okay. So, let's start from the bottom. I will put Shadowcaller in only for specialists, although the big problem with Quarterstaffs, and we can put a lot of like, Quarterstaffs are we can put them kind of like this, yeah? I think this is pretty fair. This one is going to be controversial. Let's talk about Quarterstaffs. I just put them all and then we'll talk about them. The big problem with Quarterstaffs is that you don't have mobility. And with the new update to Mists, with constantly people around you, you need to be able to adapt. You need to take advantage of situations where people are turning or grouping up on someone when you're a rat. You need to also constantly be ready to disengage and reevaluate situations because it's not 1v1 fights. Mobility is much more valuable than it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Quarterstaffs, the only way they can really get mobility is using Royal Boots or Demon Boots. And that is a riskier and much more difficult way to, you know, leverage your mobility into good kills. I mean, some use also Soldier Boots, but that's like it's a similar thing, but even weaker. Royal Boots, if you get ratted or if you're in the middle of 5 fights, the chances of you being able to use Royal Boots to escape are very low. They're going to be purged, interrupted. Demon Boots, a little bit better, but still kind of low, and you need to get low HP, yeah? If you're starting a fight, you're 70% HP and constantly, suddenly there's a rat, or like just someone trying to kill you. I don't even want to call them rats anymore, like a 2 tiers higher guy. You can't stand there and you can't just rely on Demon Boots or Royal Boots, you know? If you're playing one of the weapons we'll put in higher tiers, you have other ways to get away. The reason why Life Curse ranks higher should be kind of obvious. It's the only curse that can actually manipulate mobility and spacing of a fight without any like special other weapons or other items on your build because of the E. You can purge your enemy's boots to keep them off you, whether they're rat or it's a 1v1. You can purge their boots to catch them, and of course it becomes also very versatile, the E purge in a 1v1 fight. Life Curse, if more people played it right now, it is almost pushing to A tier to some extent, but it was much... I think Life Curse was deserving of being A tier candidate before the update. With all the people around you, just having your E as a purge is not enough. So you will still have to make up for your mobility issues with other parts of your build. And the only really like this one you can 1v1 from a safe distance, but it's like you have to be a specialist. Yeah, you have to be a specialist for Cursed Skull, and once again it has no redeeming factors. In a multi-way fight, you are gonna be the easy person to kill. Look at other weapons. I imagine you're fighting something else. Frost Staff, double-bladed, spear, whatever. Who is going to die? You or the spear, if you're both equally attractive for a rat? Of course you, yeah, the other guy will get away. So these weapons here belong very clearly. This I don't think you should play right now. And the only question is one-handed curse, because some people would say that it's actually might be worthy more. It's definitely become a noob trap of Albion. A lot of beginners think that one-handed curse is really strong in all kinds of content because it has gotten so much good PR, sorry, not RP. It's gotten so much good PR, but in reality, it is very situationally useful. And I feel like a big problem with Curse is that mostly you're going to end up in fights. You're going to win against beginners or as a rat, but all the other fights, people who are going to fight you have a good solution to you because everybody knows how one-handed Curse works. So you end up in fights against people who have a counter to you, and those who cannot, those that you could potentially kill, will just not fight you. So this is, I think it's better to put it here. It seems like a good beginner weapon to some to go into Mist with. In reality, it's a bit the opposite. You can make it work if you are really good. And if you had to, we're not going to be too strict about ordering all weapons, but if you had to order them, I would put this one at the top of, C tier. Mufanza in chat says it's easiest weapon to outplay, free kills. Exactly. From an experienced player, fighting against the one-handed curse is, if I cannot take this fight, I don't take this fight. But I know exactly, can I take this fight or not? And if I can take this fight, if I have something to counter or some way to outplay them, it becomes a relatively free fight comparing to a lot of others. Okay, let's keep going. We have Frost Staffs next here. I'm going to go from the bottom. We have Arctic Staff. Arctic Staff, I would happily put much higher. The problem with Arctic Staff is the cost. Keep in mind, for this tier list, we are also counting not just in vacuum, because this is not a vacuum anymore, yeah? It's a free-for-all deathmatch, everyone is fighting everyone. For this for this tier list, we are also keeping in mind that your strategy for Mists right now, unless you're playing 8.4, you're playing your own game, yeah? Then you need to figure out how to fight against teaming opponents. But if you're playing anything in the middle, which is 90% of PvP players, I hope, or majority of us here, which is like tier 6, tier 7, tier 8, maybe occasionally 4.1 on 6.3 applies a little bit. You need to consider the cost because you are much less safe than before. Even though you can play it from a distance, which is very nice. Arctic Staff is good at playing from a distance. It's not good at finishing kills because you are playing at such a long distance. It is too expensive to put an A tier, and long fights in general are a little bit of it's not the biggest thing, but having long fights is a little bit of a drawback when there's constantly people who are going to rat. So if you get into a fight with the Arctic Staff, on the Arctic Staff, you're relatively safe, which makes it pretty good. I'm going to put it here, but you will take a long fight, you will have some trouble finishing kills, and you at the end of the day, all of that, I would put it gladly in A tier if it didn't cost like crazy. Chill Howl, we're going to put, this is the first one that is S tier candidate. There is one reason why it's an A tier, and I will talk about that in just a moment. Yeah, in a couple weapons, we'll get to that. But just for now, keep in mind, Chill Howl is a very good weapon because you can fight from a distance without fully committing. You can manage situation against a lot of people, Chill Howl. Especially if you play something Cultist Robe or Assassin Jacket, which go very well with it. You can fight, and because of W, like the Frost W, instantly all Frost Staffs are better than they would be because you can... The W is not just mobility, very good, reliable mobility, but it's also very good if somebody rats you, sometimes you can just dodge one of their spells and you're safe to go. Like, let's say a Fist is ratting you or a Dual Swords. Having that instant blink makes you much, much better at handling those situations. And Chill Howl is really good at kiting around several people. And of course, you also have 2 iframes, which is very nice, you know, not just the W, but you can also E yourself. If suddenly you're in the middle of 50 people and they're jumping you, sometimes you can E yourself. Okay. Other frosts, I think we can pretty clearly say do not play. Yeah. A lot of the D tier weapons are such that, you know, if you just want to have fun, whatever, try it out. This one, I'm going to put do not play either. If it was just about fighting, I maybe we could say that the specialist can make it work, but not really. It's way too expensive right now, as most crystal weapons, to go in and just have fun with. And the problem with Arctic Staff, one thing to consider with some weapons is that if you are always guaranteed going to dismount every rat, that's a tiny bit of a drawback as well. It's not the biggest argument, but it's just one thing to consider on some of the weapons currently in the Mist, because majority of fights there will be people who end up in the middle of your fight or just trying to rat. So if you are guaranteed to always dismount them, it's a bit more difficult. And with this weapon, obviously, you are always going to if a person wants to get dismounted, they're going to get dismounted, yeah? Okay, then we have Permafrost. The only way I can see this played is by a really good... oh shit, this isn't actually a Frost. Yeah, you're right. I don't know why they are all together like this. Yeah, you're right, Jack Voids. Okay, so we're going to go through Frosts. I don't know why this was... This is the order that it came for by default, this tier list maker. You're right. We're talking about Arcane for a while. Well, we're going back to Frost now. Next Frost, Permafrost, I'm going to put only Specialist, because people can definitely... yeah, I know it's Astral, yeah, but thank you for pointing it out. Good point. This is good for a Specialist. You can make it work with the Morgana Cape and the Icicle, you know, artillery from the skies, but it only... First of all, you have to be you have to really know what you're doing. It's not just easy Frost playstyle. Since you still have the W, you are pretty strong, so I'm almost inclined to pushing it to B tier, but it's like higher C tier. It is still kind of situational, and you have to play out your cooldowns. It can be fun, but the fun and the success will come more from 1v1 fights. Other than the blink, you don't have anything specifically good to manage more than one person, yeah? Okay, then we have the Great Frost, which is... kind of in between. I'm going to put it B tier. I think it is one of the frosts that... maybe we can even put it like this. It's probably better than Arctic. It is very cheap, which makes it really, really good. Great Frost can be played in 2 ways. Yeah, you can play it as a regular Frost that kites. They added the slow to the E, don't forget. So that Great Frost can actually kite better than it ever could before. But the problem is a little bit that your E is... Once again, if you compare it to Chill Hull, it's going to be a bit more situational. It's pretty much damage. It can be easier. It's easier to outplay. It can be reflected. It can be dodged. And you're going to dismount all the rats. So the E is not amazing, but it is overall a very good build. And it does so much damage that you can, if you are able to find 1v1 fights, sometimes you can even just make it into a brawl weapon with Frostlands. But that's difficult with all the rats around. Overall, the reason why it's still here is because it's so cheap. And you can gain benefit. You gain a lot of benefits of the Frost Staff. And then we have the regular Frost Staff, which we can easily put. If there was a tier above S, if there was an S plus tier, when I opened this page, it was like this, and I'm not sure I can add. I don't want to mess with it too much, because very nice that someone prepared this tier list maker. If there was a tier above S, we would put 100 Frost there. 100 Frost is the king of all weapons for the moment, because of 2 things. First of all, it is broken legit, as in there's a bug, and the bug makes it really strong. This is only relevant until Wednesday, so that will be fixed. But even after that is fixed, 100 Frost E, the new E, is still really, 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 really strong, and it's the best weapon to take advantage of the constant multi-way fighting. You are not full committing, ever. You are never in a situation where you are, in order to win a fight, you go next to your enemy. That's a big benefit. If we are fighting 1v1, I'm the guy that needs to get close to win, and you're the guy who fights from far. I am instantly at a disadvantage against all the rats, because if I'm winning the fight, it means I'm on top of you. We are doing damage to each other, and I am putting my body at risk. I'm losing HP, and I probably use some of my ability to get close. If you're the guy that can fight from far, you always have an advantage because you are you are committing less of your spells and your HP on average to participate in the fight, yeah? So all of those weapons you will see that they are better right now with this free-for-all deathmatch Mist setup. But 100 Frost also packs the W. And now we come back to Chill Hull for a moment. I said that there's one reason why this is not S tier. 100 Frost is so dominant right now that you legit, when we are ranking weapons, one of the considerations we have to think about is how good is it against Frost? I know it's kind of silly, you know, you can't just rank a weapon based on one of the random matchups, but it's always been the case that weapons come and go. I've said this many times about Spear. How amazing Spear Daybreaker is in a tier list depends often on what are the dominant, most popular builds being played in the content in general. Because if you are constantly running from one carving to the other carving, Daybreaker seems like an amazing weapon. Well, it used to be because of, you know, Cripple was changed, but it used to be. But then suddenly, if the mists are filled with Quarterstaffs, both Daybreaker and Spear feel like, well, they're not that good weapons anymore, even though the weapon themselves might not have changed. The problem with Chillhowl is that there's going to be a lot of Frost staffs. One-handed Frosts, other Chillhowls, Great Frost are just so strong that, you know, you cannot, like, Chillhowl cannot be S tier because you just have a huge disadvantage against Frost staffs. Because obviously, they have a W that can dodge your E. And in general, there will be weapons that will be dodging your E. One-handed Frost E, even if you dodge it, you at least take some of the damage and slow. Okay, so this is where we put Frost staffs. We have Curse and Frost, and you're right. We actually, Arcanes are next. So let's say we started the Arcanes. We accidentally talked already about the Astral earlier because it was in the wrong place. But I talked about Astral. Okay, I can put a bunch of Arcanes here without explaining too much. Even this one, even though I played it because of channel points once, it was kind of fun, but I would not suggest it. The interesting ones, yeah, and this one here, Great Arcane. I don't even want to say Great Arcane for a specialist, because Great Arcane for a specialist, if you just want to mess shit up, you know, if you just want to be the unbridled chaos and just run around messing things up for other people, yeah, sure. Great Arcane or Bedrock are your one of those go-tos, yeah? Just go up to people fighting and just randomly freeze them, or just randomly freeze one of them and just look at them and laugh, yeah? Then you can play Great Arcane, but for nothing else, really, I think. Maybe to escape as a gatherer, but even so, I would put it in Do Not Play. The two Arcanes that we actually have in a decent place are going to be Regular Arcane and Witchwork. Witchwork is in many ways, Witchwork is very similar to Regular Arcane. It's just better. Regular Arcane is just better. Like there is almost no redeeming factor for Witchwork to choose it over regular Arcane Staff, other than you just want to have fun and you want to play something a bit special that is personally your, like, you feel like I'm playing something that only I play, yeah? That's the only real redeeming factor. A tiny bit of extra kite maybe, but not really, you know? Arcane can purge stuff. Arcane is in a, like, I would put Arcane higher, it would be in a very good spot if this tier list was 2 weeks ago. But we're talking specifically about weapons for new mists. For the mists which are constantly full of people, full of rats and unexpected multi-way situations. And Arcane is bad at dealing with that, very bad. You have a W potential blink, which is much more difficult to use than Frost, but gives you almost the exact same benefits, well, except extra damage. Arcane E can be missed. Arcane Q just has slower range. I'm still not sure why SBI has not balanced it. I might have some reason, but Arcane Q is just lower range, like 1 meter less than all of the other ranged Qs. Yeah. So I hope it makes sense. Arcane is in a good place, but it's not very good for this multi-way fighting. It is very difficult to play, and it shines. The one redeeming factor is it shines by surprising people and outplaying 1v1s. That's what Arcane can do. But you cannot really rely on just that. And most of the weapons you see right now in the best tiers, they will be weapons that can 1v1, but do not rely only on 1v1 success for their long-term success. Okay, let's keep going. Fishy asked, will this be a post on Discord or a YouTube vid? This will definitely be a YouTube vid, yeah. Mufanza says Arcane has Frazzle Dazzle. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good example of a weapon that can 1v1. Arcane can kill you 1v1s, which are, against much more expensive opponents. But that's not the name of the game anymore. And that's why it is viable, it is decent. You don't have to put 1,000 hours into Arcane to actually make it work, but it is not worthy of being very, very, very high. Okay, the next ones we can pretty much all put here. I don't think there's any real reason to play a healing staff. There is, holy staff, yeah. Can I put life touch on C? This is maybe just copium. This is like affirmative action, This is just to include a life touch at all in this tier list. Sorry, holy at all. I could put life touch here and say that, well, okay, maybe you can fight some 1v1s, yeah, like similar to like in Corrupted Dungeons. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it is going to be at the end of this tier for sure, no question. Okay, now we have fire staffs. From fire staffs, once again, a couple we can put. Actually, not this one. Let's look at the couple. This one, Brimstone, I think we can put here to do not play. All the other fire staffs, interestingly enough, I would probably put them in Specialist tier. Okay, let's go one by one. Flamewalker is still good. Flamewalker went from absolute solo best weapon in the game to potential S tier after the nerf, because the Flamewalker nerf made it much more difficult to just be always alive, to just run away, chase everyone, run away from everyone. The cooldown nerf was a big thing, but it remained one of the powerhouse weapons with flexible approach. You can play it in different ways, you can approach fights in different ways, and you just outdamage most opponents if you hit your spells. But overall, right now, I feel like it's deserving to be still on A tier. If you are playing and being kind of careful, you are going to be very good in 1v1s, and you have the tools to survive multi-way situations, or to rat, or to win multi-way situations. So you walk away, other people fight each other, then you still have the mobility to come back, especially when you're playing with a purge. So I think it's worthy of being A-tier weapon still, but it is it is so-so. One of the big negatives is that it costs. I don't think it justifies the costs as much as it used to. So this is like it is on drop watch. Yeah, we're watching this. Maybe it will drop to B tier at some point soon. It depends. It's just because it is very expensive, and unlike the Froststaffs, for you to actually use your E, imagine a situation when you are chasing a guy after you have won a fight, and he's very low. The Froststaff will be able to do damage from far, use their E's from far, and if the things go wrong, the Froststaff ready to blink away. Let's say there's a rat on your enemy, like you're starting to kill an enemy, a rat stands on top of them. The Froststaff will still E, hopefully kill them, maybe not, and then you're ready to blink away and start kiting the rat. Flamewalker, on the other hand, now remember we talked about committal. Flamewalker, to actually play it to the full potential of the weapon, you're going to have to commit your E at some point. You're going to have to commit your own body. You have to get E into your enemy. You're going to dismount the rat. You're going to be in the middle of the whole chaos. You're going to probably lose HP. So as a situation where you are being ratted by someone, or you're just in the middle of people, it is not as good. Yeah. Okay. Evensong definitely. It's an interesting one. It's definitely at least C tier, because it is one of the fire staffs where you can outplay people and it has a lot of potential. I'll probably say this is just for a specialist, and I'll put this somewhere in the middle of C tier. But it is like, it depends on what the content is like. Currently, fire staffs don't really love the multi-way situation unless you're ratting. So I would say 2 weeks ago, I would consider Evensong for B tier. But now, since playing this fire staff usually relies on you Q1ing, yeah, and like you have a good E spell from far, but then if the enemy gets close, you just Q1, you do the fire staff brawl. Sorry, yeah, Donsong. Thank you, Mufanza. Yeah, not Evensong. Evensong we put here without even mentioning. Yeah, Donsong. All the songs, the songs together. So the Donsong is a bit weaker, like all fire staffs. If you want to play them with Q1, you're a bit weaker than before, because Q1 is not that good against multiple enemies, and you have to be a bit closer. We're going to do kind of the same with Blazing. I think it's fair to put Great Fire here, and we're going to put Inferno here as well. All of these, I think, are viable for a specialist. If you really want to have fun and you are really good at the combo, I don't think they deserve to be put in D tier. They all have redeeming factors. Fire staffs all on Q1 are scary to fight close range for most weapons. You can bait people in. Inferno has very nice way to kite people around, to waste out their defensives or boots. Blazing is probably the last one in this list. It requires for some sort of meme build, but if you pull off the meme build, it's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, it's kind of okay. Okay, maybe this we should put in D tier. Let's put it in D tier, so just we don't have too much here, but it's kind of it's close to being up here as well. And we have regular fire. Sorry, the Great Fire here is just the worst fire stuff. Yeah, it's a bit more damage, but it's very easy to play around. And then we have Wildfire and regular fire, and these are kind of difficult to put because these are only really good at low IP. So we're considering this tier list from the perspective of playing something like mid-tier and trying to not just rat, but trying to actually take fights, manage multi-way situations. In that case, they're definitely viable, but they don't deserve to be anywhere higher. If we were looking at this as a tier list for very low IP playing, I would definitely put Wildfire, not S tier, but I would put it A tier, because it is one of the best weapons to defend yourself against higher IP attackers. Just stand your ground and kill them. And it is decent as a rat, yeah, because you do a lot more damage than what you would expect from a 4.1. The regular fire is more, but if you're talking about fair fights or fights against 5 people, there's no redeeming factors. Just like we talked about Quarterstaffs, you don't have good enough mobility, yeah? You're not usually going to use the W mobility, but even if you are, you're reliant on your boots, which is going to put you at a bit of a disadvantage. And regular fire is kind of similar, but the higher IP you go, the better regular fire becomes, and the worse wildfire becomes. Because this is more... regular fire is much more flexible. You can use it in more different ways. You can cancel people's stuff. You can instantly cast it so that they don't have time to use their defensives. You know, if they have a soldier helmet, you can pretty much guarantee hit your quick E, whereas this one you will get soldier helmeted. And there's other nuances that make regular fire better. But it doesn't deserve to be A tier right now at all because it doesn't handle multi-way situations. See, I'm a quick look in chat if I'm missing some good arguments. Okay, let's keep going. Next up, Nature Staffs. Very tricky to rank Forge Bark because it is, once again, one of those ridiculously overpriced ones. Not worth it. I'm going to put it here because I've seen like 2 people play it over the last months. Although this tier list is for the starting last week, yeah. The free-for-all constant action mists full of people. I think it's still a good idea to keep in mind, you know, the cost, but keep in mind that it has been somewhat successfully played by a couple people. It's not the worst. Like, you can 1v1, but there's no real like redeeming factor for this for multi-way fights. You know, you don't have the mobility. You're gonna have to do a lot of trickery with your build to get to the same place where all of these other weapons are already start. Yeah, even if we forget about the cost and all the weapons we're gonna put there later. Iron Root obviously do not play. Rampant do not play. Blightstaff. Good for specialist and probably better. Blightstaff, interestingly enough, this is a bit of a sleeper weapon in my opinion, because I think Blightstaff actually gained a little bit from this update. Yeah, Blightstaff hasn't been like a serious PvP weapon for a while. It has been in this tier only play it if you're really specialist. Don't attempt this at home type of thing for a while, but it has the tools to defend itself. And surprisingly, since its E offers it mobility, you know, which is good if you have to manage your life in between a lot of people. At least you have some mobility, which a lot of other weapons here don't. And secondly, having the kind of simple heal where you don't have to stop, you don't have to, there's no like, you don't have to checkbox, you don't have to do like a captcha to prove that you're human in order to get a heal. You just click the button, it's very straightforward, easy, and then you keep running whichever way you want. Allows you to take longer fights, which a lot of these multi-way situations will be, like people attacking each other, you don't know who's helping who is ratting, who is not. So Blightstaff, surprisingly, I feel actually has won. I don't think it's good enough to put it in viable, but it is good enough that a specialist right now on Blightstaff can be successful in Mists. Druidic, very bottom of C tier, probably even this is kind of generous, and I think the other ones, I mean, we saw Onasim today, and you saw how awesome he was on his great nature. And even with that, he still, you know, he still was absolutely helpless when other people, when not great mobility weapons decided to 2v1 him, yeah? Because his build had also assassin shoes, so let's not decide based on just one situation, but it's just a good example that even someone who is really good at the weapon is struggling if you're put in a deathmatch situation. So I think this is fair. These are it's kind of generous to put these here, but at least we have some healers in the viable tier. Cobra, I don't think it can be played. Lightcaller, such a difficult one. Of all the weapons, one of the more difficult ones. Because as I've said at the beginning, obviously, again, every tier list is based on my experience, but we discuss these things a lot with experience, and I looked at what other people are playing and how they're adapting. Yeah, you know that. I looked to other players, I get their opinion, stuff like that. Lightcaller is one where I have not played it, but I have seen it. If we remove the edge cases, the kind of weird cases like Pandakota, one player who's been the most successful player on EU for a while, and also after the Mists, if we remove that because, you know, we're dealing with an probably amazing player who's also playing at 8.3, then it remains somewhere in the middle of the pack, yeah? I don't think it's good enough to put it in A, not because I think it doesn't deserve that, but because not enough people have actually shown that it works. Tier 7 Lightcallers that are playing right now seem to be like moderately successful, yeah? And one of the reasons, of course, is that multi-way, well, you're not bad, you have good mobility, especially with Royal Jacket, but especially if you transform with 5 stacks, you get a lot of speed boost. But I don't think it deserves being put in A, but it is close, yeah? Let's put it somewhere here, somewhere near the top of B. That's where I would put it right now. Also keep in mind the price, yeah? So we are also dealing with the weapon where you're not going to die maybe that much because you do have decent mobility if you really want to run away, but at the same time, you know, you are, if you get messed up by several people, you know, you don't want to pay that cost every time. Earth Rune, easy. Let's see what other shapeshifters we have. I almost want to play. I almost want to put this in do not play. Like, this is a bottom of C, kind of bottom of C tier. After the nerf, Hellspawn doesn't seem like it makes sense in Mists, and even when it was, and even for a specialist who's playing this well, it's not a weapon that you want to be facing more than one person. Yeah, you want to have a controlled 1v1 where you can outplay one opponent, which right now Mists don't give you that many situations. I think Blood Moon is, I think we can put it in B actually. It's I feel like Blood Moon right now it's kind of in between. Not many people are playing it, so it's difficult to rank. But it feels like at least you are somewhat less reliable on just 1v1ing. Yeah, Blood Moon obviously also decent on 1v1s, but you can keep using mobs to heal up. The problem is that your mobility, tether is the only salvage you have to catch people who are running away or to get away. If you get ratted, you're in a bad spot on Blood Moon. But it is surprisingly strong 1v1, and some people have, some experienced players on EU, at least from my experience, what I've seen their like the standings. I've looked through what people play, and I've seen some in my Mists have made it work. Not just 8.3, but also middle tier. So I think Blood Moon is a bit on the rise, but doesn't really love the multi-way as much. At least you can keep using mobs to heal. So, you know, that's one of the things that also helps, that in between fights, if you are constantly running around, people are chasing you, or someone else is dismounting, whatever is happening, you can at least at some point, you can keep healing and keep yourself full. Blood Moon, you can start losing the fight, you can, or winning the fight, you are 40% HP, somebody's ratting you, maybe you are like tier 7, tier 8 Blood Moon, a tier 6 is ratting you, you can surprise them, you can almost out-brawl them still. Plus, you can keep healing while they're waiting for the 15-second cooldown. If you can't get away, you can heal a lot from mobs, yeah? Okay, so Blood Moon is actually surprisingly good. Again, this is one of the weapons that I feel is rising through the ranks, but it's a bit confused. I'm a bit confused on how good exactly it is with dealing with the ratting situation. Primal, probably do not play, because even though some people have made it work in Mists, not so much in EU, but I've not really seen it. I mean, the last category, I'm not actually worrying about the ranks of which is which, but if we were, I would put this like here. Potentially, maybe a specialist can play it, but probably not. And Prowling, I don't know if it's worth it to put it in A at all. It's not bad. It's somewhere at the edge here. It seems kind of weak because of how amazingly strong it was before, and for a lot of weapons, Prowling is just a decent matchup. Yeah, a lot of these top weapons that we're going to put here later, Prowling just gets destroyed. But a lot of the Prowling's natural predators, I feel like, also have kind of lost popularity. Yeah, like we have fewer spears and swords. Maybe spears is not fair, but fewer swords at least. So Prowling it's kind of at the edge of still being good and surprising. This is I don't see why, because in theory it should suck more. But maybe it's because people who play Prowling are really good at it on average. But this is being played a lot. Yeah, this is not just a couple good players. Like I said, with Lightcaller, I don't know where to rank it because it's not enough if just a couple players play it. A lot of people play Prowling and are really successful with it. You have to play on Tether, which limits your ability to 1v1. But if you are on Tether, with the jump from the cat form, plus being able to go invis to survive or to sneak up on people, I feel like Prowling actually sort of almost enjoys this constant chaos. At the end of the day, of course, it's not that good to be in the middle of a lot of guys on any weapon, a lot of people, but I feel like Prowling is, and also it can turn around and surprise and kill a low IP rat with one big combo as well. So I think like Prowling is actually okay. Okay, Phantom Twin Blade, don't really know. Whether it's actually worth being viable. It's very interesting because I have seen it played. It is a crystal weapon, so I'm probably going to put it only for specialist. I mean, if you look at other Quarterstaff and other Quarterstaffs, I almost want to put it into viable, but let's keep it here with the asterisk that not enough people have shown that this can be played well. You are very limited because you need the enemy to chase you or run into you because you don't have a lot of natural mobility. This is the problem with a lot of Quarterstaffs. If you change your W and Q just for mobility, you lose normal fights. So you need to kind of, you can't have both. Can't have your cake and eat it too. A lot of the weapons up here can have both, yeah? Like Prowling doesn't need to sacrifice their damage. They just need to change their W. That is kind of true, they're on Tether instead of Polymorph, for example, but it's still decent for them brawling, yeah? The same here, like these weapons, the W is not even a question, you know, they are doing everything. But with, where were we? Where is it? Where is the, okay, so with Phantom Twin Blade, I don't know. I feel like if you change to Cartwheel and Stun Run, you know, you're just gonna lose a straight up brawl to someone. But it seems okay still if you really want to play it, and it's expensive because it's crystal weapon. Grail Seeker, super duper niche. I'm gonna put it in do not play. Only works as a solo one-shot type of scenario, and even then, against a good player, you're probably gonna die because they're gonna tank your whole one-shot and then just kill you. You've seen that happen on my stream as well. If I lose 80% against Grail Seeker before I even start fighting them, I can still win the fight because I just drink my potions, and after the combo they have nothing, yeah. So I don't suggest it. This is doesn't even require any comment. Black Monk Staff. I saw one guy play 4.1 Black Monk Staff and just mess people up, and including me, you know, just surprise people, but that's not enough to say that it's actually viable. Yeah, this goes here. Double-bladed and Quarterstaffs. Quarterstaff is viable. Definitely also not A tier, so let's put it in the middle of the pack. Quarterstaff is a bit too rigid and predictable, yeah. You don't have as good mobility as a lot of other weapons here. You have decent mobility though, but your E is a bit too easy to react to, so in 1v1 fights, you can be outplayed with most, like all of these weapons around here can usually outplay a Quarterstaff. Doesn't mean that you're always going to lose on Quarterstaff, but just, you know, everybody has the tools. It's not a case of going into the mist and then some people have a counter, some people don't. Against Quarterstaff, most people will have a playstyle that they can apply and kill you. And it's not amazing in multi-way, but it is still pretty good. It's not bad either. It's exactly like middle of the pack kind of average. If you just look at the weapons that are actually viable, not the ones that should not apply, like are not made for mist at all, I would put Quarterstaff somewhere exactly in the middle. Does everything kind of okay, doesn't shine at anything, and will get messed up if there's too many people, but also potentially has some solutions. And double-bladed is very difficult to put somewhere. I think it's viable, but I have not seen enough people. Double-bladed as a full mobility build doesn't work right now, unless you're going very high IP. But I feel like double-bladed, if you lean into actually fighting a little bit, your E is going to be an interesting, like, you have to be a bit more of a rat to abuse your mobility, you know, because a lot of weapons, like, compare it to other weapons, even the Quarterstaff, you know, your E is just more mobility, but less damage, yeah? So you can't just straight up take a fight. But you can use double-bladed and embrace the multi-way. You can use it and embrace that there's constantly a bunch of people fighting and attacking you from different angles. Sasha says, request the artwork. Would you like to see someone at work? No, thank you. 1/10 of the way to making you play Trinity Spear. Nice. Okay, we'll get to Trinity Spear as well. Double-bladed staff, I think will be played more, and not just as a high IP abuser, but like a legit weapon. I think it will be played a bit more than before. I think it's actually a bit better, but you don't play it with just relying on mobility. You have to actually be willing to take some fights, but it's going to be a bit of an opportunist weapon. Yeah, you're not going to win a lot of 1v1s, although you do have access to Gale Dance, which is great also to, you know, to fight close range and brawl. But it's going to be more like an opportunist weapon, you know. You fight someone, you don't fully commit, you just do a bit of damage with maybe Cultist Cull, and then you wait to see if rats appear. And when rats do appear, you can take advantage of them because catching you is more difficult than catching your enemy. Or if you are a rat, you know, then it's much easier for you to maybe get the loot, get out, stuff like that. Okay, that's Quarterstaffs. Let's go to Spears. This one, do not play. I don't think you should play this at all. Daybreaker is very interesting. It's probably here, but Daybreaker is the one that if we made this tier list a week ago, it would be there. It has remained, and especially after the Flamewalker nerf, Daybreaker's two annoying matchups, which were Flamewalker and Crossbows, or especially Arclight Blasters, even though they're annoying, they're still manageable, first of all. It's not like a counter matchup you shouldn't fight, but it's just annoying. And secondly, those weapons have become a bit less popular. So Daybreaker was in S tier. But the problem with Daybreaker is it's a powerhouse weapon for 1v1s. It's a weapon that, we're talking about missed 1v1s, yeah? With like some mobility being involved, obviously, and Wolpertingers and stuff. In that sort of scenario, Daybreaker is one of the best 1v1 weapons in that you can 1v1 anybody. Yeah? You have the tools to solve every situation. That's what made it S tier, pretty much. And while you're doing that, you're still decent at mobility in general. So if you need to catch someone, if the person starts running away, double-bladed. If someone is on your screen, you can rat. If someone is ratting you, your mobility is good. With the new crazy free-for-all mists, where there's constantly people around, Daybreaker has lost a little bit of its power. Not enough to put it lower, though. It's definitely still very, very good. But Daybreaker suffers a little bit from the fact that you don't have the best tools to manage. If you embrace the fact that there's constantly people around, I feel like Daybreaker doesn't fully manage that, yeah? Your E is slower. You kind of need your helmet for extra mobility. Your E is not enough for it. It's very easy to dismount rats while you're trying to E your enemy. The same scenario before. If you're trying to chase a person who's almost dying and you need to finish them off, you're 100% also going to dismount the rat. Okay. Trinity Spear for Mists, only for Specialist. Only for Specialist. There's no redeeming things about the fact that it doesn't have mobility, and its E is going to be full committal, and it only shines in 1v1 fights. There's nothing about Trinity that gives you any sort of options to manage a situation against more than one person. So it's barely playable, honestly. Now, it used to be C tier, now it's just barely playable. If you want to play Trinity, play Corrupted, it's very good there. Don't play Spirit Hunter, Heron Spear, only for Specialist, once again, barely playable. To be honest, Heron Spear I would put a bit higher. Heron Spear is really fun, but that's not what we're measuring here. However, the Heron Spear, you don't have mobility, so you're probably going to have to use Demon Boots or Royal Boots. So that's a negative, yeah. But the one redeeming factor about Heron Spear is that you still can kind of fight. If you're walking away from people, your E becomes sort of mobility, right? Because if I'm kiting away from you and trying to get away, you're trying to 2v1 me, I throw an E behind me, I stun you, that gives me time to keep going. So I can use the stun as a way to increase my mobility advantage over you. And it can also be decent to solve multi-way situations. You saw that time there was a 3-way fight. Everyone was kind of fighting each other, but the other two guys started fighting each other more than me, and I was able to get 2 kills with one Heron Spear E. Sometimes in a multi-way fight, your Heron Spear stun will actually, because it's long range and good damage burst, will actually be useful. So Heron Spear is like, I don't want to put it in viable, but it is along these weapons that are, you know, just narrowly out of, let's put it like this, just narrowly out of the B tier. No Glaive, no Pike, unfortunately. It's similar to Trinity, same problems, but even weaker. And this is an interesting one. One-Handed Spear gained a lot. One-Handed Spear was a strong B-tier contender, but now, after the update, if you are not focused on 1v1s, if you want to 1v1, Daybreaker is better. Flamewalker is better. Like, this is in between. Like, some weapons here will be better at 1v1, just straight up 1v1ing. Even Arcane Staff, you know, although it's more difficult, but it can win a lot of 1v1s against much higher tier opponents. Spear is okay at 1v1s. It's definitely above average. It has a lot of tools to fight different people, but Spear really shines with the new system. You can E instantly to catch anyone or to get away, to even dodge spells. It's very nice with Assassin Jacket. Your E is low cooldown. If you really need it, you can even, if you really just want to rat or not get ratted, you can even use Cripple. If not, then you just use Impaler for extra damage. It's like, if the weapons that are up here, usually, if we're looking at 2 categories, how good are they at 1v1 fighting, how good they are at handling multi-way, Spear is way above average right now at both of those things. But it is, I feel like, a bit better at handling multi-way than 1v1 fighting. So I do believe Spear is actually, has gained a lot from this. In the couple weeks, we will see which of these weapons will become S or A tier, how they will move around. Spear has the potential to go all the way up to S tier, but also it's not going to be as good as a Frost for, you know, being safe in the middle of 5 people ever, yeah? But it gives you very good chances to outplay your enemies, to constantly dodge spells, to handle the situations, and unlike a lot of these other weapons, it's actually not bad against Frost. Remember I said that one of the considerations, since Frost is big, like Frost's in all Quarterstaffs, got a big buff from people, just so many people on your screen, being able to actually fight Frosts is an important thing. And Spear is one of the weapons, also Daybreaker, also Flamewalker, although Flamewalker a bit more tricky. The weapons here are usually weapons that will also be able to, if need be, if you are forced in a 1v1, you can fight the Frost on Spear, which is awesome. Skybound asked, is a mist tier list? Yes, this is tier list for how my first impressions from the week, based on the new mists, which are constantly full of people. Which weapons right now are the best to go and play middle tiers and embrace this chaotic free-for-all deathmatch. This, I don't know. I don't know if it's even worth putting it only for specialists. Let's put it here, because at least the burst, like being able to burst and then kite, is a good playstyle. Because if you imagine there's 5, like you have to constantly be ready for other people to join the fight. Being able to just do your burst, then go invis and kite your enemy, means that now if a rat turns up, you are full HP, even though your E is on cooldown, you are full HP, your enemy is lower HP, so they're a better target. Not amazing by any means for mists right now, but it's like it deserves being mentioned as a specialist weapon in my opinion. The burst is kind of okay. Bridal Fury, no. Death Givers, we have another S tier weapon. I feel like, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like Death Givers lost a little bit from the chaotic mist setup. I feel like Death Givers 2 weeks ago, I would have put them in S plus tier. I would have put them above everything. If we did the same tier list 2 weeks ago, I would say there's Death Givers tier and then there is S tier. Now, Death Givers are still amazing. They can do both. Remember these two things? How good are you at 1v1? How good are you at managing multi-way situations? Death Givers are here. Like, they are amazing at both. They are a little bit worse at managing multi-way than a Frost Staff, but a little bit better at taking any 1v1. It has all kinds of tools. You can change to... you can also fight a Frost, which is another qualifier for how highly we can rate the weapon. Look at any of these weapons here in this SAB tier. Death Givers can fight and kill anyone in a 1v1, while remaining relatively safe, or not safe, but at least there are solutions, yeah? Some of these weapons will be trickier, because Spear and Daybreaker, for example, you kind of need to change to Sunder Armor. Once you do that, you are more prone to being ratted. But still, you can win against anything else in a 1v1, and while doing that, you still have good mobility W options. Potentially your Q is mobility, usually, yeah. You can kite around, you can use your Mercenary to heal up in between rats, stuff like that. Death Givers are still S tier. They are a little bit less S tier than before, but this is just a testament of how high they were already before. Demon Fang, do not play. Bloodletter, it's probably a B tier. It is kind of in between everything. Let's put Bloodletter on B tier. I think the Bloodletter, I cannot put it in A tier. We're talking about mid tier. Bloodletter is difficult to play. I know it sounds weird. Yeah, Bloodletter has been has gotten a lot of hate as just weapon that some people use just to get free money without any risk, which makes it sound simple. But to play Bloodletter, if you're not just going for free kills, but you're playing it middle tier, so you're actually taking fights or taking advantage of multi-way situations. If you're not just ratting or just playing 8.3, Bloodletter is difficult to play. You do not have as much kill pressure as Death Givers. You don't brawl as good on average as Spears. You don't have the kind of mobility and kiting, and you can't really properly kite as Frost. So you are not like special. Like you kind of every one of these weapons here has something that they will use to beat you. So Bloodletter is difficult. It's tricky, but it is like the redeeming factor is in the constant chaos with a lot of people. You can take a little bit of a fight, disengage, stay at the edge of the fight, be relatively safe. You are difficult to catch. People know you're difficult to catch, so they won't even always go for you. You can mess up, you can go, you can just go, if you're playing Stalker Jacket, you can use it as a little bit of a burst, Stalker Jacket an enemy, and then just stay safe at the edge of the fights to see how the others are responding. Maybe there's going to be a fight without you. Like, you can manage and solve a lot of situations. Let's put this back a bit. You can solve a lot of situations with Bloodletter right now in the Mists, on middle tier. But for 1v1 fights, it remains kind of weak, yeah? Okay, Claws, do not play. Dagger pair, it is borderline do not play or only for specialist. We can put it here just so we won't put too many things in D tier. Dagger pair is just you can only do one thing, yeah? You cannot adapt to anything. You just do your own game plan and hope that your enemy doesn't know what you're doing, so that you just kill beginners, or is greatly underestimates your damage. So you can kill someone more experienced, but only in 1v1. No chance really to make Dagger pair work very well multi-way because of your E, obviously. So you'll probably play it low tier as a sort of a rat, or just bait someone to fight, but very unlikely. No redeeming, nothing special about this in any situation when there's more than one person. One-handed dagger is one of the biggest losers, in my opinion, from the mists. This is a weapon. If we did this tier list 2 weeks ago, it would be at the top of near the top of B tier. Yeah, like 2 weeks ago, one-handed dagger and spear, in my mind, were on same rung at like higher B tier or maybe very low A tier. But now with the constant chaos, spear went up and one-handed dagger went down. Because one-handed dagger is a very good weapon to play 1v1s. It's a very good weapon to kill people who have invested 5 or 10 times more into their items than you have. But it just hopelessly suffers and becomes almost hopeless to be really successful with the moment you have to deal with more than one person. It's too difficult. The only way you are going to play against more than one person is if you have big IP advantage, and obviously then you are, it's not a good strategy anymore. If you're constantly investing a lot of money and you're fighting a bunch of 4.1 or 5.1 lower AP players, long term you're going to lose money because you're going to die because of the way mists work. You don't have any mobility on your E. I mean, okay, a tiny bit of move speed, but no real mobility on your E. And your W, you need your W to kind of kite one enemy to wait for your next E. So you can't just rely on your W to manage the fight in between rats. I do see some one-handed dagger specialists still play this right now. I mean, I haven't seen them, but I would imagine that some of them will still play this. But it's mostly relying on getting that big kill, and it's not so good in between enemies. So maybe we can put it further, like higher than Cursed, but it is C tier for the moment. If the mists gets rebalanced, one of the first things that is going to happen, if they get rebalanced as in fewer people again, some of the weapons here are going to go back up to B tier, and one-handed dagger is one of them. Okay, Sky Strider, 100% would be, Sky Strider would be between between A and S tier if it didn't cost a ridiculous money. It doesn't make sense to play Sky Strider right now because of how expensive it is. Like this legit, Sky Strider a week ago was strong A tier, pushing itself into S tier. The only reason I was not putting it into S tier, because I said this many times on stream, I feel like Sky Strider is S tier, but there's not enough people playing it. There's just not enough experience when I look around, when I look at what the best players are playing or try testing. Now I feel like it gets pushed down to B just because it's just too expensive. If you don't care about money, play Sky Strider for sure. It's a very good weapon, or like it's at least on par with these in A tier, but it's just crazy expensive. All bows, like I put all curses here, or bows will go C tier. Weirdly enough, so I don't want to talk too much about every bow separately. We'll talk about some of them, of course. Okay, this bow I don't think we'll put there, but we can put Mistcaller here Mist Piercer here, just because it's a bow and bows are in a good place right now, because bows like fighting from a distance. You can poke your enemy, which doesn't expose you to being ratted or taking as much damage, just like we talked about before, yeah? Low committal. Right now for Mists, any way you can fight, low committal. If you come from Dota or League of Legends, this would be the most like obvious term for you, yeah? That's a very relevant thing for MOBA games, yeah? Low committal. Take a fight without committing, yeah? Once your ADC or your position 1 commits to the fight, win or lose, yeah? But if you have heroes or champions that can poke, that can take fights and win fights without committing as little as possible, so that if something goes wrong, they can get away, you might have a better chance. Right now in Mists, low committal is a good way to play, and all bows offer you that option. Badon is almost as good as Sky Strider, but it does suffer a little bit from not having, I mean, not specifically, but comparing to Sky Strider, the fact that you don't have the E to to dodge stuff, essentially, it just makes it worse. Because when you are suddenly you are in the situation where you wanted to get a good fight, but suddenly there's 5 people looking at you and 3 of them are dismounted and like, I'm gonna kill you next. You're still kind of good because you're probably far away. You have your E to zone or do damage while you're getting away. You have Frost Shot. If you need, you have long range Q, or short range. The Q1 is just very good damage. It's very much out of balance right now. It's really, really strong, the Q1. So Badon is good for that, but it doesn't offer you that sort of invulnerability or option to outplay rats or outplay several people if they're not rats by also using your E. Whispering, too much. I'm gonna put it. Okay, let's put it here. It's kind of similar. Whispering is too much single target. We talked about that before. Warbow, I would put here. I don't think. I mean, okay, it is viable. It's kind of in between. Let's put it here. It does deserve to be B because it is a decent bow, but it works as a low IP option and it works when enemies attack you. The big problem with Warbow is it's difficult to finish kills and it's difficult to be aggressive. The moment person decides not to go after you, which a lot of these weapons will, like a Death Givers, they're going to start fighting you. You hit a couple E's and they're going to be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going the other way. There's no point for me risking. and that's it. They can do that, yeah. So like you require for success on warbow, you need your enemy to make a lot of mistakes and continuously be too aggressive. And that's not a good recipe for winning a lot of fights. But it is still a bow, and it is a bow that can put pressure from far, so it is deservedly here, in my opinion. Longbow, surprisingly, I feel is one of the weapons that actually gained a lot. I would legit, I think longbow is right now is a very, very decent bow. Let's put it like this. And one of the reasons is it's definitely much cheaper, yeah? Like, if you're just choosing a weapon, you don't get a lot of money, it might seem like, okay, they're next to each other, so whatever, yeah? I would choose Badon. But longbow is so much cheaper. It's like twice as much to buy Badon, at least on EU. So, in my opinion, longbow is very low cooldown, high range E. Also means that you can poke and you can like epitomizes almost this low committal fighting. Yeah, you can fight while constantly being ready to manage rats. You have the frost shot, or you can do that with long range Q, but you don't even have to. You know, you can keep your short range Q1, which is super strong and right now one of the best spells in Albion, probably for 1v1s. You can keep yourself on that, but at the same time, you still do the big poke damage with your E from far every 15 or 20, depending on your cooldown, like pretty often, yeah. And then we have regular bow that is would have, like, if I did made this tier last week, it would have been A tier regular bow, 100%. It was rising through the ranks to become one of the best mist weapons, not S tier best, but A tier best. But it lost quite a bit, and I'm gonna put it somewhere here. And the reason this is one of the best 1v1 weapons right now. I feel like regular bow is legit one of the best 1v1 weapons. If you're going to the mist and you know it's always a 1v1, play regular bow. However, mists are anything but 1v1s right now. Those who played last week know exactly what I mean. So regular bow is losing, and might even, as weeks go by, if the chaos continues, regular bow might go down a little bit more. It depends on how people adapt to the chaos. But if you do get a 1v1 fight, you are amazingly strong, and at the end of the day, you're still a bow. So you still have frost shot and longer range damage. So there will still be situations where, even though you start getting ratted, you have the ability to kind of get away, and at least you have some mobility on your E. It's not amazing, but you know, like we've talked about earlier, like if you're playing Wildfire, you need to make up. If you're playing Life Curse, you kind of need to make up for your mobility problems with boots. On bow, you don't have to run Royal Boots. You can, but you don't have to run Royal Boots or Demon Boots. You can be with regular boots. You have Frost Shot, and you have some mobility on your E. Okay. Skybound asked, "Where's the skinning knife?" Hello, Wisdom. What's up? Yeah, I'm not interacting that much with chat, but I will look a little bit, just because, you know, I want to put this on YouTube as well. So I don't want to have 15 minutes of me talking and answering specifically questions right now. So it wouldn't be like in the middle of YouTube. Although some of it I will of course edit as well, or at least look through it. Moroax asked, way earlier, is flat tier 8 equivalent a good spot to be for solo mist, like 1.5 mil kit? Yes. I think tier 6, tier 7, tier 8 are a good place to be, but you need to accept that you're going to die a lot. So if your tier 8 is good, if it's 2 weeks ago, you would have gone into the mist with 6-3 or 8-3, instead go tier 8. But if for you that is a lot, don't go tier 8, yeah? Because you're going to die a lot more than before. If 2 weeks ago you were playing tier 8 and having fun, now it's time to downgrade to tier 7 or tier 6. This is how mists are right now. You just die a lot. You're going to die to people ratting, you're going to die to just people, you know, killing you as collateral. You're going to die because you thought it was a 1v1 fight, but you're also just going to die, you get dismounted here and there. Sometimes there's a teamer, stuff like that happens. So you just have to accept more deaths, unless you're going like full-on mobility 8.3. So I suggest playing a bit lower tier than before. But tier 8 for me, it still seems okay, but it's kind of pushing it, yeah? Like if you want to have constant action, tier 8 is like the highest tier. I wouldn't even go 6-3 right now, unless you don't care and you know you're going to die a lot. But this situation, let's monitor this over the next weeks. Okay, Arclight Busters was absolutely S tier contendant a week ago, and I think now is actually lost and is probably going to be in the same category as Sky Strider. Arclight Busters are not amazing at multi-way. You have enough damage to... The good thing is that you have enough damage and usually use defensives, yeah, like Cloth Armor, Mage Robe or Cleric Robe. You will have... well, okay, not always Guardian Helmet. You'll often have Stalker Hood, but still... The good thing is that if you get ratted, you're 40% HP, you will often still kill the rat, even if the rat is same IP. Like if you outplay, you have such good E versatility, you can maybe dodge some of their spells. Let's say you're fighting somebody, you kill them, but also dismount the rat, and now the rat is trying to fight you, you have only 50% HP, you will sometimes still kill the rat. Because on Arclight Blasters, the only thing you need, like the main thing you need, not the only, but the main thing you need in a 1v1 fight is for the enemy to be aggressive. And so by losing 50% HP, you actually secretly achieve what you wanted in the first place, which is what the other guy running to you. Because if the enemy is same IP as you and they're running towards you, Arcane Blasters, you will pretty much kill everyone. Yeah, you have probably the highest damage or close to the highest damage output in all of the game. So that's a redeeming factor. But overall, Arcane Blasters, they don't handle the multi-way situation well, and they're also very expensive, ridiculously expensive. So it doesn't make sense to buy them right now and play them in mists unless you don't care about silver. If you do, if you don't care about silver, you just want to have fun. Crystal weapons here, this and this for sure. Put them in A tier and just play them. I would not play Shaper. Let me think. Weeping Repeater we can put here as well. I don't even remember. I don't think Siege Bow it's called, yeah. Okay. One-shot crossbow. Okay, let's put this as a specialist, but it's a 1v1 specialist. Yeah, there's I mean, crossbows are okay because of caltrops. It's not terrible, but you don't have mobility on your E. Like, is a big problem. Yeah, only this one has. And you will have to compensate for your lack of mobility with boots. And at the beginning of the video, I also already said that that's a bit of a problem. Like, it's not the end of the world, but if you are in a situation where you have to use demon or royal boots to have actually a good chance against meta weapons, because otherwise you don't have the mobility, then you are instantly in a bad situation against threats, because your boots are much less likely to save you in the middle of several players, as is like other types of mobility, like a double-bladed, using it QWE to get out, and then boots is going to get away from a bunch of rats. A crossbow player who's charging royal boots in the middle of 3 people is not going to get away. Then we have a heavy crossbow, same thing. At least heavy crossbow can be put a bit higher here because of the damage from far. Yeah, so you can poke from far. At least you can do the low committal fighting very well. But once the enemy is actually anybody focuses you, if people look at you, now you are committed. Now you have to fight and see who wins. But at least you can stand far and do some weird stuff. Bolt casters is an interesting one. Definitely doesn't work very well on with multi-way because your E is single target. Bolt casters actually lost a lot of power. I probably should put it on specialist tier as well, but it's higher specialist tier. One reason, can you guess why bolt casters lost a lot of power, other than the fact that there's a lot of people? What other reason can you think of why bolt casters suddenly are so much worse in Mist than they used to be before the update? The answer is invisibility. The answer is that because people are adapting to the multi-way chaos, Assassin Jacket and Undead Cape have gone through the roof. Their usage has gone up a lot. And those are 2 weapons that boltcasters hate, especially Undead Capes. You can't kill through Undead Cape, right? There's no way. You're not going to use Purge. You're usually using boots to get from far to close for that one big burst. So even like it definitely loses out in the multi-way fights, but even in 1v1 fights, boltcasters are not as good because there's so many more people who are going to have Undead Cape or Assassin Jacket. Assassin Jacket doesn't save you from the sleep, silence, E combo, but a lot of builds, how do you deal with boltcasters E? If you have Reflect, maybe, but Geekpot, yeah, but the actual like good solutions are to interrupt it, yeah? But a lot of weapons might not have an interrupt, or in the case of Spear, they might not be close enough to interrupt, or they don't want to use their interrupt, So with boltcasters, Assassin Jacket is essentially an interrupt against them, yeah? If you're not silenced, whenever they start charging their E and you have a problem with it, you go invis, so you get a free interrupt and their E goes on cooldown. So boltcasters do not want to fight against Assassin Jackets. And finally we have Light Crossbow. Light Crossbow it's kind of like Arcane Blasters. It does a lot of the same. It's a bit weaker, but it is incredibly cheap, and you're not amazing at multi-way by no means, and you will have to compensate with getting demon boots or royal boots to be really successful. But it's an incredibly cheap weapon that almost outputs the same damage as Arcane Blasters. So you can 1v1 pretty much everybody. You just need to somehow bait them in. Just like I said before about Arcane Blasters, you being already in a fight, like you already having lost 25 or 40% of your HP, functions sometimes in your favor because people will attack you and you will surprise them. You will use your Cleric, your Guardian, and do so much damage if you use your passive correctly that you're going to actually win a fight. Like, I think most light crossbow players, if you get to fight equal IP Bloodletter, let's say, or Spear, and you start the fight from 60% HP and the enemy has 100%, will you take the fight? I think most really experienced light crossbow players say, yes, of course, that's what I want, yeah? Some of the best light crossbow players I've seen intentionally lose 40% HP to get the other person to commit because they know they're winning that. So there is some redeeming factor if you can, if you have a constant influx of aggressive rats. But at the same time, you are very easy to focus down, yeah? There's no good enough mobility, there's no dashes, you have nothing to get away. Anyway, light crossbow, at the end of the day, it's really cheap, and that's why it's here, and the damage output is very, very good. Okay, we go next to War Gloves. War Gloves are interesting because they have some options, and some of them feel like they got better from the chaos, but there's also other things to consider, like the recent nerfs before the patch, like nerfs to Qs. First of all, let's see, can we put something here into Do Not Play? Definitely Spiked. And Raven Strike Cestus. I think we can put these here. This is... no, it's not serious. This is more like a joke, yeah? I've seen some people play it in depths, and yeah, sure, okay. There's some redeeming factor, but for mists, when you are playing alone, nope. I don't think you should play these gloves if you're focused on PvP. Yeah, if you're focused on something else, okay. Okay, from the ones that actually matter. First of all, Force Pulse Blazers are a bit too expensive to play, but they are definitely in a decent enough place for a brawl-heavy fight. And since you are playing gloves, you have access to triple kick, you have access to Q mobility, so you can manage rats a little bit, but it's a crystal weapon that is expensive. So at the end of the day, if you go into Mist with this, your hope is going to be to get good 1v1 fights, and even those good 1v1 fights are not going to feel like, oh, easy, like walk in the park, like this is what I was born to do. No, even those fights will probably will still be challenging, but fun. So I think it is viable, definitely, for someone who really, really likes and wants to play it. But I am going to say it's, as an overall strategy, because of the cost and because the E is pretty much just for... It's mostly good when you are fighting one person and not so much to manage. And then the close range fight, I'm going to put it here. Fists of Avalon have long been in S tier, kind of fell to A tier for a while, especially when Flamewalker and Arclight Blasters became a thing, and now it's a bit of a question where they are. Like, it's difficult. I would put them probably... I almost want to put them in A tier here, because I mean, if Prowling is A tier, I think Fists probably deserve to be A tier as well. One problem is the cost there. It's also a problem with Prowling and Daybreaker and so on, but the cost is not crazy. The thing with Fists of Avalon, you can run around Mists and almost never die. You can go run around with triple kick, Q mobility, and just run around as an opportunist. But then slowly, sometimes you need to change your spells, but sometimes, not just as a rat, you will come across more and more situations where you can actually fight. They remain a good weapon for 1v1 fights. It's a bit annoying because a lot of the good weapons here will be happy to fight you. Froststaff wants to fight this, probably, yeah? It depends. Against Froststaff, it becomes tricky, and that was also my experience. I tried this as a new weapon. Against Froststaff, the big problem is you have a very good counter spell on your W, you can use counter, but the moment rats catch up and they're on top of you, now you're still stuck on counter, you're probably going to die. Daybreaker is very good against Fists of Avalon, so this matchup is not amazing. Flamewalker is annoying because they have their E reliably against your E. So there are some things that kind of almost want me to put it into A, but I think overall Fists of Avalon are still in a great place to abuse the fact that there's constant action happening, to just run around feeling kind of safe and take part in the action when you really want to. So it is... but this is a bit of a, it's difficult to put it because a lot of my understanding, and I believe this applies to a lot of other more experienced players as well, some understanding of the weapon, at least in my brain, I have not yet adapted fully for this weapon, because it's not just the patch, it has also been nerfed, all gloves Qs were nerfed, so people are still kind of adapting to see where exactly fists are right now. But having the amazing mobility plus a built-in purge means that you can always remove enemies' boots if you hit your E, or you're not worried about Inferno, stuff like that, remove Invis jackets. I think overall it's in a very good place still. Hellfire, I don't know, Hellfire Hands definitely for specialists, but how high it is. The big good thing about Hellfire Hands, don't really want to fight in the middle of a lot of people. You want to have a 1v1 fight. But the good thing about Hellfire Hands is that you do a big burst. Like I said before, if I am 1v1ing and there's 5 people watching, yeah, but none of them are on top of the fight, and there's 5 people watching, one thing that would make the fight a bit more attractive for me would be if I can do my big burst on the enemy, so they lose 25% HP, and then I go in this and see what they do. Now, normally, if this was just a 1v1 fight, the enemy would then get on top of me and do their E and their burst and so on, yeah? But now, because they're worried about all the people and everyone around sees like, oh, this guy hasn't lost any HP, but the enemy is already low, you know, burst damage can attract rats to kill your enemy. So burst damage is a better way to... It feels better to fight with burst right now. At least sometimes it feels good that you burst damage and then you stay far from your enemy, you let them go, but you know that at least rats are not killing you. And Hellfire Hands can do that. But it takes a specialist. You have to be good. This is one of those builds, it's not like universally good build, yeah. You have to actually get a lot of experience playing them. And Brawler Gloves are in exactly the similar boat, except it's a bit easier to become a specialist and the reward is higher. So essentially, it is just better than Hellfire Hands. It performs a similar function. Unfortunately, to play Brawler Gloves the way they're usually played, the moment an enemy sees you, a rat sees you, GG, goodbye. You're not getting out of there, right? Assassin Shoes and potentially like Q4. I've seen different. I've seen Brawler Gloves now try not just Q2 but Q4. Still, like you getting out of that is very, very unlikely. But you do giga damage. Brawler Gloves allows you to kill people 2 tiers higher in a straight up fair 1v1 if they mess up and if you hit all of your spells. So they are some of the among the specialist weapons. I think they are the best, or among the best. You can see them also here at the top. Battle Bracers are right now. They gained a lot from this. Battle Bracers were kind of in between B tier anyway, and I think it's fair to put them like near the top of the B tier, just because Battle Bracers are amazing at just managing multi-way situations and being like surviving, going in for the big rat burst, like a burst as a rat, kill the enemy, loot, run away. Constantly run around mist, get away from anyone you want. It is a bit of a rat weapon if you play it sort of correctly, yeah? But you can, as you get better, you can start taking some 1v1 fights. So remember these two things. How good is a weapon at 1v1 fighting? How good is a weapon at the multi-way, solving multi-way? Battle Bracers is good, very like one of the best at managing the multi-way situations, but slightly below average, I would say, at 1v1 fighting. But overall, it puts it, in my opinion, like a higher B tier. Because for current mists, you can manage a lot of situations. If you saw how I played Battle Bracers, a lot of the fights, if you play them correctly, it sucks. It's not my playstyle, it's a bit boring sometimes. But still, if you play some fights correctly, oftentimes you will be kiting your enemy anyway. So you will be in that situation where you haven't lost that much HP, and you are at like 20 meters away from your enemy, so you are much less in like this risk zone where if someone dismounts, I'm just dead, yeah? It's not like full YOLO committal fighting as much, which makes it even 1v1 fights. Like you can fight against somebody, let's say here, let's say Battle Bracers, I'm fighting against a Spear or a Flamewalker, fighting. It's likely that if the rats dismount, I'm the one that gets away, despite the fact that these weapons here also have very good mobility and, you know, potential to deal with rats. It's still likely that Battle Bracers is the one that gets away if you want to get away. And it's not too expensive, which is nice. Okay, True Bolt Hammer, I really liked. All hammers, just like with all bows, I said all bows have a bit of a, like they are decent right now. We could do the lazy thing and just put all hammers at least C tier. There is no hammer that is do not play category because of W. Because W slowing charge alone makes any hammer viable for a free-for-all mess. Because on a hammer, you don't have to calculate, am I actually able to win some 1v1 fights? Doesn't matter. Your W is good enough to constantly kite away from one person, from several people, and to be the one that probably doesn't die. Of course, the actual E also matters. You know, if you only reliant on W, you will die sooner or later, yeah? But usually, like, your E will help with that. True Bolt Hammer E does not really help. It's one of the hammers that helps the least. It's only good for, like, some 1v1 fights, and it's way too expensive to actually play it. So it's going to put it in D tier. Hand of Justice is kind of similar. If Hand of Justice is interestingly, like, it's a cool niche pick to win some 1v1 fights. But for multi-way, it's like, if I would put it here, it would just barely make the cut. But I don't think it's, I think it's better to put it at Do Not Play right now for mists. If, like, the other hammers are just better when there's more than one person. Yeah, Hand of Justice still can use W, which is like, okay, at least you have something. But other than that, you are reliant on outplaying a 1v1 fight with your E and probably Mercenary Jacket. Grovekeeper, definitely decent. Decent to manage this. I don't know if it's decent enough to put it in viable. But for Specialist, yes. The big problem with Grovekeeper is that the E you have to commit, yeah? Like, if you want your E to actually be useful in a fight, it's committal. Yeah, you can't E from far, so you have to at some point get on top of your enemy. I mean, it's not like it's the end of the world, but still. Grovekeeper, in my experience, is also suffers way too much from the Froststaff epidemic. So I would like to put it higher. You know I love this weapon, but I think right now it's just for fun or for a Specialist. Because there's so many Froststaffs, and Froststaffs have such an easy blink against your E. Like, they don't even need to... Like, they can almost write write instructions for their grandma when to press the W, and the grandma will be able to press it at the right moment, because there's just too much time to react, unfortunately. Kind of same thing with Forge Hammers. Very, 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 very similar. Forge Hammers, once again, just because of W, you can manage more than one person, but because you are so reliant on being on top of your enemy, it's probably even worse than Grovekeeper, because you cannot use your E to get away, obviously, but just to, to slow people already around you, at which point, if you're trying to get away, that doesn't help that much. Plus, it puts you in combat. So, Forge Hammer's fun, but just for Specialist, and definitely a bit lower than Grovekeeper. Then we have Tomb Hammer. Tomb Hammer, I think it almost deserves being put in A tier. Now, Tomb Hammer combines all the benefits of W, while your E, you can use it from far. So if you need to get away, if you hit your E from far, unlike the Pog lock where you need to E into your enemy, you can hit your E from far, and you can keep running if you need. If you want to catch someone, you can hit your E. Unlike Pog lock, for example, the Frost will usually not react to your E. Like, it's an incredibly fast reaction. You can, if you have good ping, you can react to the visual of Tomb Hammer, but it is incredibly difficult. You have to be hyper focused on only noticing that, and then maybe. So usually Frost will not react to it, and other weapons as well. And it is one of the best hammers for sure, because it's not the best at handling multi-way, but it's very good. Let's say if we are rating on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say it's not like 10. It's not like 10 out of 10 at handling multi-way situation. Maybe it's like 9 or 8 out of 10. But it makes up for that by also being able to 1v1. Look at all these weapons. Tomb Hammer can 1v1 them. It's not a favorable matchup. It's not like you have an advantage against actually against Spear it's okay, but against Flamewalker it's not like you're expecting to win the fight, but you can. You can 1v1 a Flamewalker while still remaining an amazing weapon to handle multi-way situations, and it's not crazy expensive like some of these, yeah. Like, keep in mind, we're also calculating price a little bit, because we're talking about like weapons that make for a successful strategy for the hectic free-for-all mists after previous patch, yeah, right now. So, like, for example, I would put this is better than Tomb Hammer in most situations, but it is just so much more expensive, it doesn't make sense to constantly die on Skystrider. Great Hammer is in a bit of a similar place, but I'm going to put it at top of viable. Now, Great Hammer, it still remains to see exactly, because people need to try it more to bring it back, if it does come back. Great Hammer gains, like, if you look at these, what I just talked about, Great Hammer is definitely even better than Tomb Hammer at solving the situation, surviving, not being the guy who dies. When there's 6 people who are fighting each other at different moments, different people ratting, different people, whatever. Let's say there's a 6 people fight, and let's say I give you like a riddle. Not a riddle, but just a guessing game. You go into the mist, you see 7 people fighting, I'm going to tell you everybody's weapon, and then I'm going to tell you 2 of those survived. Nobody's teaming, nobody's doing nothing, 2 survived. And then I give you a bunch of weapons. If one of those weapons is Great Hammer, and you have to put your money on it, I suggest that you bet your money on Great Hammer being one of the survivors. So it is a weapon that manages, that is one of the least likely. Froststaffs and Great Hammer are probably the least likely to have died in that cluster fight, because it has some of the best tools to kind of fight, but not really, still survive. So Great Hammer is here. It might be pushing to A tier. If people start playing it and using it more, it might be pushing back to A tier. The big problem is you suck at 1v1 fighting, because you cannot rely on Stalker Jacket damage, because it was nerfed so much last year. So you're gonna, if you're gonna have to 1v1 fight some of these other weapons here in B tier, you're gonna either lose, or you're just gonna full-on kite and reset until suddenly the other person gives up mentally, or makes a mistake or disconnects or something. So it's too difficult for 1v1 fighting, but it is amazingly good probably for managing the multi-way. And the last 2 hammers, okay, this one actually, this is probably the same as this. Yeah, it's a bit better than Hand of Justice, because it's easier to just stun and then keep Wing and running away. but it's still very situational. Pole hammer is worthy to be in this category with some of the other hammers. It's definitely, it's like a worse tomb hammer, yeah? It's like a tomb hammer that does not want to 1v1 fight as much, but everything else you can kite very well. So it maybe even deserves being on this top row of these weapons. Let's put it like this. Okay. I have no idea what the Redstone Monarch does, so I'm not even going to think about it. Do not play, do not play, do not play, do not play, do not play. And we have the only two maces that... This is straight up just, I want to include everybody. So we're going to put two maces in only for specialists. But if you've heard me, I've been asked about maces on stream several times. There is no real... Other than you just want to have fun and you want to feel special, you know? You want that feeling that, I beat you with a weapon that nobody else is playing. That's the only possible reason right now to play any of the maces in solo mists. There is no two ways about it. I think this is obviously the whole tier list and everything is my opinion and my experience, but this is one I could put money behind that this is just an objective truth right now. Maces are essentially just worse hammers, and the only two that if you really want to play, the only two I would suggest are Oathkeepers and one-handed mace. And I've said this before also. Someone was asking, and you're kind of like a hammer. Like one-handed mace is a lot like a hammer. Yeah. You have, like, let's compare it to Great Hammer. W mobility, yes, very nice. But Great Hammer will slow you and kite you while they're Wing away from you. One-handed mace, W, or all maces, you have to jump on top of your enemy. Your E will stun as you jump away with the Great Hammer, yeah? You at any point, if you drive through your enemy, you get the stun. One-handed mace, you have to jump on top of your enemy. Q is... Like, the only comparable redeeming thing is maybe Mace Q is okay in 1v1 brawling, but that's it. And just like hammers, you're going to lack damage, and you cannot really use Stalker jamming. And Oathkeepers is essentially the same, but it's just fun to play, potentially. And the shield can surprise some people, because Oathkeepers is such a niche weapon. Even some experienced players might not expect that big shield that you put on yourself. But I don't think... Neither of these weapons have any real business in being in the middle of 5 people either. At least you can survive, yeah? At least you can probably survive, but it's much worse than most of the other weapons. It's like, if you're going back to these two things, it's abysmally bad at 1v1ing, yeah? If you play mace, one-hand mace, it's abysmally bad at 1v1ing, but then you're not like amazing at solving multi-way. You're like average at playing in the middle of enemies anyway. Okay. Let's see. We have axes and swords to do. Crystal Reaper, I don't know. People have not played it. I know they tried to buff it, and I really don't know. Doesn't seem like very good because you need to commit your E and just use it in a special situation, like in a special location, I mean, not situation. I don't know. I haven't seen enough, and it's also expensive, so I think we can actually just put it into Do Not Play. Realmbreaker, I had to play this as a channel point redemption. There's nothing really. If you want to play an axe, there are better options. Yeah, the E mobility is not it's not enough to redeem. I would put it into Do Not Play. I don't even think it's like situational. Realmbreaker, if no other axes existed, maybe Realmbreaker will put in C, just the same way in maces, just like affirmative action. But I don't think it deserves to be up there. Then we have Bear Paws. Bear Paws are definitely viable for a specialist. They are not good for mists. But because your mobility is not amazing, yeah, but you can change your W to jump, or at least have adrenaline, which is, jump, the battle rush, yeah, or at least have adrenaline, so you have some mobility on W. You have E mobility. You are okay in dismounting people, forcing people into a fight, and the brawl is not terrible, yeah. Unfortunately, most of the weapons here can 1v1 Bear Paws. Like most of the weapons, if you look at B tier, there's really no one that, was going to look at Bear Paws and see like, oh no, I don't want to 1v1, yeah? So I think Bear Paws are actually okay, but they are by no means anywhere near S or A tier, yeah? If you're watching this video or looking at this on right now live on Twitch, yeah? And if a part of your brain is thinking, but Bear Paws, like I just looked at Murder Ledger or Killboard 1, and it's like one of the most popular weapons, that's because statistics are based a lot on, first of all, open world and Roads of Avalon, where people are using it to solo gank, and it's a completely different world. And secondly, because a lot of people are watching, it's like perpetuating the same guides. Like people are watching guides from 2 years ago thinking, oh, okay, Bear Paws. Then they play Bear Paws, they are successful with it, and they think, okay, it's actually a good weapon. Where in reality, it's often, you kill much less experienced players in the open world who are not there for PvP, who are reliant on Invis potions, which at least your bleed counters, stuff like that, yeah? If you go into Mists for against other more tryhard PvPers, Bear Paws are just weak, and you need to be really a specialist and really focus on getting the best out of it to actually make it work. Crystal Reaper is sorry, Crystal Reaper. What did you say? I think Sight is somewhere similar. I don't know. The only redeeming thing about Sight is at least it's really good against undead caves in theory, or at least you know, finishing people when there's a bunch of people piling up one expensive guy. The likelihood that you're the one getting the kill is pretty high because, you know, execute obviously. But I think it's very like specialist weapon, and it doesn't even have the jump like the Bear Paws, at least some jump on the E. Carrion Collar do not play. Halberd do not play. Great Axe, like it's somewhere in between. Let's say only for specialists, but at the bottom of it. It's very difficult because this is the opposite of the non-committal. This is full committal. If you want to even have any chance of winning a fight, at some point you have to just ram your damage into your enemy's face and just hope for the best. It's really predictable. Enemies know, you know, they have any sort of dash, which most people here will have. They will kite you or they will get out of your E, and you end up in a situation where if there's rats, you're the one who dies. But okay. It seems at least better than something like a Crystal Reaper, so at least you can, you know, fight in different places and not just the place where you put down your E. And then finally, the actual axe that I would suggest you do play if you are absolutely deciding to play axes is the Battle Axe. And Battle Axe is surprisingly not terrible, I feel like. Now the Battle Axe suffered. So the Battle Axe lost a little bit from being from being in the middle of 50 people. Definitely Battle Axe players enjoyed Mists when there were fewer people, because Battle Axe sucks at playing against mobility weapons. It gets kited too easily, but it makes up for that for being surprisingly strong for its IP in a 1v1 fight. It's very easy for a Battle Axe to get kills when enemies commit to a fight too early. They let you close because they think they're winning, and then you surprise them with your big damage, constant bleeds, and the second E heal, of course, yeah? So Battle Axe can win a lot of good 1v1 fights, but now that the Mists are not really reliant on 1v1s, Battle Axe is difficult. It's definitely much more difficult, but I think it's still kind of okay. You might want to try a build like, I know I've mentioned this many times, like Eugene has been playing for a while with Cloth Armor and Duskweaver, where you turn the Battle Axe into a little bit of a ranged weapon, yeah? Like you are playing more to the fact, unlike these other axes that we just talked about and some of the other weapons here, you can still be a threat from far. With light armor ease, you can throw ease from far. With Duskweaver, you have some ability to catch people or get away from people. So Battle Axe, I feel like, is in a decent place, but it definitely suffers from having too many people around it. Hope that makes sense. Mufanza says the E nerf feels really bad in Battle Axe 2. It's easier to dodge. Possibly there are other things factoring in. Yeah, that Battle Axe, why Battle Axe feels worse. Not just that there's more people. Maybe you're right. Maybe the E is just also weaker. Okay, we have Infinity Blade, I think, is only for specialists right now. It's kind of high. It's like the first row of specialist weapons, probably. Let's put it second row, actually. Let's put it here. It's too expensive. It got nerfed so much. It's too easy to fight against. It's predictable. People know when you E, then you know you're about to go for the big slash. They can get out of the second E. I mean, you're a sword, which is always okay for 1v1. Swords remain good at 1v1s overall across the board, but when it's no longer just for 1v1s, it's a bit like rigid. It's also a weapon that usually uses boots to make up for some of its lack of mobility, even though the E offers enough mobility, but you know, it can still feel a bit underwhelming against some of the real mobility weapons up there. Kingmaker, do not play. I know there are awesome clips, people killing beginners in the open world and in Roads of Avalon. Kingmaker can be fun. If your heart calls for Kingmaker, go play open world or Roads of Avalon. You will have more fun with it, and you will sometimes surprise a group of players and do a lot of damage to everyone. In Mists, you are just way too predictable, and it's easy to play around you. And I mean, the thing is, it could be a bit higher potentially if I saw some people play it and maybe get like a big E against several rats or stuff like that, but I have not seen that anywhere really in Mists. Galantine, kind of same thing, way too predictable and easy to play around, not amazing at 1v1. The only redeeming factor about these is that they're sword, and swords remain good on average because you have the little Q jump, you have constant mobility if you're queuing something, and you are amazing at brawling because of your Q stacks, yeah, because now also even Cripple doesn't remove them, but I mean, it's just one spell, but still, your Q stacks can potentially make you into a very good brawler, plus the W1 is just very, very good damage, yeah? Like, if you are constantly Blade Cycloning whenever it's off cooldown, A lot of people can be surprised by how strong you're at brawling, so you can kill higher IP players. But I think if you want to use Sword and Mist, there are better options. And we'll get to those better options in just a moment. Broadsword is on the edge of being like good enough for me to put it here. I saw a couple people try it out recently, good players, and it seemed like it is not ridiculously bad. This is weird to say, but I don't really suggest picking Broadsword if you want to play a sword, but I don't know. There's at least you have a tiny bit of jump on your E, but it's still kind of predictable, but you are a sword, so, you know, there's like, if you really, really want to just have something funky, I would suggest choosing this over the other swords here. So at least we have clearly put it up here. And Clarion Blade is kind of the same place. Clarion Blade is also, both of these swords, you're using just the natural power of swords to brawl by constantly stacking up and doing the Blade Cyclone W. Both of these swords use that, and then they have something else on top of that they can still do, like the Clarion can do damage from far, it can silence, the Broadsword can interrupt, and the damage is, well, at least somewhat acceptable. But there's no, like, you don't have very good mobility, there's no really reason to play those unless you specifically enjoy the, I don't know, aesthetic or something. And keep in mind that both of these are also in the category that you are using your boots usually to make up for your lack of mobility. Yeah, so you're kind of, I don't know, it's the same problem like I said before. If you in order to participate in PvP in the middle of 50 people, you need your boots to make up for your mobility problems. That used to be okay 2 weeks ago, but it is now like it is instant disadvantage. So you will also see that like every weapon here, if you find the weapon, like I said, light crossbow is a good example. Light crossbow, if it didn't need mobility boots to keep up, you would maybe put it in A tier. Like all the weapons are like 1 tier lower, at least the moment we realize that they need boots. Then we have carving dual sword. Then we have the three swords that actually work. Onasim says Great Nature should be an F tier. Oh, we'll talk about that after finish with the tier list. Yeah, but I mentioned you also when we talked about Great Nature. You are a good example, Onasim, also of the fact that if even you are saying that, you know, with your skill level, you are saying that Great Nature doesn't have a redeeming factor. It's very clearly that it should be at the lower tier. But the Ds do not play, yeah, so it's pretty much all the other, like the last tier is all the F tiers and whatever, everything together. Okay, we have Claymore, Dual Swords, and Carving. Carving, surprisingly, I think is actually higher B tier now. It sounds weird, maybe it doesn't. Carving obviously spent most of its life, or missed life here. It got nerfed several times and started dropping and dropping and dropping, and was already, like, it was somewhere here, but the actual, like, the last patch, I'm confident it was a boost to Carving, because out of all the swords, Carving is the only sword that doesn't mind fighting multi-way between rats. It's the only sword that takes some fights by kiting, you know, E through your enemy, you still do the damage, splitting slash behind you, purge their boots if you need to, brawl them a little bit, then keep kiting them. Carving is the only, like, swords in general would prefer 1v1 fights. Swords are not, like, it's very, very good example. Froststaffs love the new mists. All Froststaffs love the new mists because whatever Froststaff you preferred, you're not amazing at 1v1 fighting, but you're really good at managing multi-way fights. Swords, the opposite. All swords love 1v1 fights, but no sword really enjoys being in the middle of many people. But Carving definitely is gaining. Like, Carving is just, because of this chaotic situation in Mists, I feel like Carving is just like a one small buff away from being a real meta contender again. But for the moment, it's still in B. Dual Swords, we can put it right here next to it. Dual Swords is much stronger because Carving likes to use Splitting Slash to occasionally kite. Dual Swords are some of the, like, it's one of the best weapons to just take a 1v1 without even thinking, just click all your buttons and just do a crazy brawling damage. Like, the only ones who can maybe outbrawl Dual Swords straight up are Death Givers, because you can always chain slash their E. And if you change to Sunder Armor, then yeah, you can outbrawl everyone. Dual Swords outbrawl pretty much everything else. Like Battle Axe, I don't know how it goes. It's iffy, but probably still Dual Swords win. So Dual Swords want that, and that's why they're still here, because they're just almost unmatched in terms of brawling people and punching way above their grade, yeah? We're talking, this is the whole tier list, if you weren't heard for the start, is for tier 7 or middle tiers, more or less. Tier 6, tier 7, tier 8, going into the mists for fighting, not just for low IP rating and not just for high IP survival and fights. Yeah, so we're kind of removing the top and the bottom, and we're focusing on the middle tiers and the meta for that. And if you think about that, dual swords in that category, on that tier, in those tiers, they still pack amazing punch against someone higher AP. You can play tier 6 dual swords and kill tier 8 players straight up if they become too aggressive, or if they don't deal with your the pressure you put on. So dual swords, if this, if you've seen this, if you've seen my low AP tier list, you know dual swords. I still believe dual swords would be S tier. If this whole tier list was just a 4.1 weapons, I would still put dual swords probably here. But dual swords now, I think, is a good viable option. They suffer from having to play against a lot of people, though, unfortunately for them. Dual swords really don't want to fight more than one person too often. But like light crossbow and some others we talked about, at least it can, Dual swords actually can fight a rat. Also, if you do not full HP, you can sometimes turn and surprise them. And the fact that you are low HP from your previous fight functions as a bait to get other person to come to you so that you can kill them. And finally, Claymore with a bit of a bugged image. Claymore, it's difficult. I'm not sure if it's deserving of being put here. It's definitely, the distance between Claymore and Carving right now is surprisingly high. So we'll put it at somewhere near the top of specialist weapons. Yeah, let's put it here. Claymore got buffed a little bit in terms of damage. Claymore is a sword, so it can brawl. It can take a lot of fights still. It can do a lot of damage with Blade Cyclone. But the E is just too... The E is just too predictable, reliant on stacks, and like rigid. You cannot use your E whenever... You cannot use your mobility whenever you want. In a 1v1 fight, that's okay. Good Claymore players can outplay a lot of these weapons in a 1v1. Like someone who's played a lot of Claymore, I'm sure they will win some 1v1s. They will win some 1v1s against Spears, especially now that Cripple doesn't remove it, against Fists, against Death Givers, They will occasionally do that. Like you can definitely... win Claymore fights. But the moment you are stuck with the situation when there's more than one person, let's say you are winning a fight against me, I'm the spear. Okay, Rat starts dismounting, I don't want to lose my set. On the spear, E away, and start running. On the Claymore, can you just E away? Well, first of all, you need a mob. Secondly, you're going to get into combat with anything between you and the mob, because you're going to do damage to it as well, yeah? So you have a lot more restrictions. Thirdly, let's say the rat catches up. I E'd away and started running on the spear. The rat catches up. I'm forced to fight. I'm going to have another E in a moment, yeah? No worries, I'm going to fight. On Claymore, your E is now on cooldown. You might be in a much worse situation. So I think Claymore, just as a random example to compare it to something, I think Claymore is actually would be in a good place if it was just for 1v1 fighting. For Corrupted's play Claymore right now, it's a good time. It's pretty fun, I think. From what I've seen, it's viable at least. But for Mists, Claymore doesn't want to be in the middle of a lot of people. And so I think there we have it. I think that's all. All the weapons. I don't think the tier list maker missed anything, which is really nice. But this, keep an eye. We're going to talk about this more, and also, maybe make some more videos about it. We'll see. But keep an eye out, because right now people are still figuring out the new Mists, and kind of, it's adapting. So that was the tier list. Of course, let me know, how does this fit with your personal experience? If you have experienced the weapon to be significantly weaker in the current Mist situation, or significantly stronger, let me know. I'll be happy to hear it. Hopefully see you on streams or in the next video. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye. It's not that easy. It's not free run away for him. Easy. The easiest kill of my life.